Well, you can most certainly feel it. I mean, it's a different feeling, it's a different world, and even a week ago, than even 6 days ago. And that's a good thing. Now, it would be ridiculous not to talk about the full video. I'm not going to show it, but the full video of Iryna Zarutska and what happened there. Because number one, it's the most important story that's happening right now. And number two, despite how horrific it is, there is some good news from this. There is. In the movement, what's happening here, it's different. Everything has changed. Everything. A lot of it's going to disturb you. A lot of it's going to drive you crazy. A lot of it's going to infuriate you. And isn't it amazing how we've gone in those different phases? We've gone from just the shock and the horror of that original story and what we saw from the original video, rightfully so. Everything turned to anger in a good way. Everything turned to anger when we saw the full video for many, many different reasons than what we know now. And now I'm here to tell you that's okay. Because anger put towards something positive and real change. We're not going back to it. I really do feel that can be a very positive thing. We're going to talk about that. Talk about this is the really infuriating thing. What we know about the judges, the judge, the prosecutor, and the NGOs, the organizations taking taxpayer money that led to all this. It's just insane. We'll talk about that as well. But what's going on from here on out, and it's been called a civil rights movement. This is, by all definitions, a new civil rights movement. That's the good news in all of this. We'll get to that as well. And there actually is some good side news. We're going to go to Texas A&M, where a professor that is bucking the law and still pushing gender ideology has been fired. That actually is a good, feel-good story. We'll get to that a little bit later on, too. But first of all, thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream and podcast. Appreciate you, as always. A lot of new followers and listeners. I appreciate your follows and listens and downloads, as always. Probably because there's so much in the news these days, but appreciate you and love you, even you audio podcast listeners. And I appreciate you just for being you. Let's get right to it. So we all know that the full video, and now you know why they didn't want this thing released. The full video of the murder of Iryna Zarutska. Everybody knows who she is now. To go into that was released yesterday. And you see exactly what happened. It was more horrific than the first video, which is what led, I think, to the anger, which will lead to action going forward on this. But what got me, and I'm sure it did you too, what got me was that lasting image in the still shot of her just horrified, look. It wasn't immediate. She obviously, we know what happened. We know how she died. It wasn't immediate. That will be burned in our minds. And that's what's going to lead to change. I'm getting to that. I promise. What got me the most angered were the bystanders on this. And it's, I'm angry, but I'm not blaming them directly because we've been led up to this, right? There were 5 bystanders on there. And race doesn't matter in this issue. It doesn't matter what color they are. There were 5 bystanders on that train where Iryna was murdered who did nothing. After it happened, after the cretin that killed her got up and left, got up to leave, they saw exactly what was happening, and they got up to leave too and just wanted to get out of there because they were so freaked out by it. I understand the reaction. I understand the explanation, but you're just so in shock and horror and horrified by it. But it's something more than that. Because that wasn't everybody. There was one guy that stepped up to try to do what he could to try to help her, try to stop the bleeding. It's too late. She died, a minute later, 2 minutes later? Too horrifying to talk about. There was somebody that helped. But that's what, if there's anything I'm saying today, which is what a lot of people are saying, this day and age of being bystanders to crime and the insanity and the ludicrous nature of what has led to this, it's all over. You can't be bystanders to crime in a situation like that, in the immediate moment anymore. Can't stand by and watch and let that happen. Or at least not help her. That can't happen. More importantly, we can't be bystanders to letting what led to this happen anymore. Because there's a real crazy part. Because now, knowing what we know now, and all of this had to be revealed, and thank God it is. This is where the positive action comes from. No, this wasn't 5 years in the making. Like this wasn't during Biden or even Obama. Guys, this was 50 years leading up to this point. Some people would tell you 60. Where it all started with academia and into the courts and into the justice system, where DEI was planted with seeds, and it took root, and it grew to where, people would always tell you could see it on memes and bumper stickers, DEI means DIE. Well, it's true, because DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, reforming racial justice, the criminal justice system, all of this, all the key nice sounding buzzwords that were actually murderous, that's what led up to this. And it took decades to get here. Decades. But they did it. Why? And it led up to this point. This was the turning point, and now it's going to get undone with common sense. It is. But I'm here to tell you, let's just be adults about this, and let's be honest. This is going to take a long time to fix because it's so ingrained. This is Charlotte, North Carolina, where this happened. Charlotte. Not a major city, a large metro area. In media, they always break down in media, medium, large, major markets. Well, there's a large market. Think of how many judges and prosecutors and DAs and mayors and city council members are just like this, what happened in Charlotte, all across the country, because they are. Now, let's get to it. Did you know? Here's what really led up to it, and this is where we really can't be bystanders. Can't be bystanders to let this happen in your community. Remember a couple of days ago when we first started talking about this, I was saying, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, and it's the last thing I feel like doing too, looking at your local community and your county commission board and your city councilors or your mayor or wherever you live, and look to see their background, their law degree, what they're all about, because we're all trying to live lives. We're trying to have jobs. We're trying to raise kids. We're trying to have fun. We're trying to enjoy our lives. It's not exactly the most fun thing in the world to do. It's never been more necessary. Case in point, did you know you don't need a law degree to be a judge? Did you know that? I didn't know that, and I follow a lot of news, trust me. I had absolutely no idea. But this completely incompetent, absolute DEI installed fool of a judge that let this monster out on the streets was exactly that. Promoted by other incompetent DEI-placed fools that put her in that position. I could give you the list of exactly what led to this, but Jesse Waters last night, I ran into this clip about a half hour ago in real time as we're doing the live stream. He explains it better than anybody possibly could, so I'm going to play it. What I mean by not being a bystander, yeah, you can't be a bystander when someone's getting murdered. You have to try to help that person, obviously. We'll get to that more in a second. But you can't be a bystander to watch this happen in your community, no matter where you live. Remember, this is Charlotte, North Carolina. Now just multiply this by hundreds of cities across the country. We can't be bystanders anymore. Jesse Waters did an amazing job describing and digging into, because a lot of people obviously were doing what I was doing. You look at the situation and the train, it's this and that. He got to the root of it. This is just an excellent, excellent piece he did last night. It's going to horrify you. This is going to anger you, but it's okay. Remember, turn this into action. This is what he said last night.
This is Teresa Stokes, a Harris donor who doesn't even have a law degree, but just made a career criminal and a schizophrenic who beat his own sister when he was out on parole. Pinky promised that he'd behave. Ms. Stokes wasn't elected. She was nominated by the clerk. In Mecklenburg County, the sitting clerk is Alyssa Chin Gary. On her LinkedIn page, she calls herself a clerk and a DEI consultant and a racial equity organizer. And her life mission? Reparations.
We are here to honor them, to lift their names, and to continue the intergenerational work that we are required to do to eliminate structural racism.
Ms. Stokes was nominated by Judge Carla Archie. Judge Archie is friends with Eric Holder, Obama's wingman. And
it goes on and on and on. If you're not mad about that, I feel, you know where I feel guilt? I feel guilt about that because I haven't looked into how bad the situation is in my own community. And that's what's going to take. And again, I'll say it again. Most of us just trying to live lives, have fun, raise our kids, go to jobs, go to school, have work, pay our damn bills. That's over. No more bystanders. We can't do it. Look into how many people in Charlotte, how many people in the state of North Carolina had any idea this was happening? Probably none, because that's how they do it. Because the tentacles of this insanity have been so deeply ingrained to make this happen, to get to points like this. It's going to take years to undo. Case in point, it gets worse before it gets better. I'm always trying to bring a positive to this. Here you go. $3.3 million from the left-wing NGO, the MacArthur Foundation. Well, that sounds nice. I wonder what they do. MacArthur, is that the milk people? No. Well, that went to Mecklenburg County. That's Charlottesville. That's Charlotte, North Carolina, to reduce the jail population. Yeah. Well, this guy was released 14 times, so there you go. And they do it in the name of something that nobody would argue with. This is why you got to look a little bit deeper. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, on surface, who would be against that? That's such a nice name. That's so nice, isn't it? There's a reason why they give it a nice name, is because if you looked into it, you realize how horrific it is. And it's all by design. And it's all by design to destabilize society, and that's where we are. Those are the NGOs. And that's how deep this goes. Can't be a bystander to this crime. Now, it's been called by many people, this happened overnight, once the full video was released, the new civil rights movement for common sense. And my first take on that was, really? Is it going to go that far? And then you think about it for, give it 2-3 seconds. Oh, it absolutely is. I think this was a kicking off point, as it should be. And then the president made this statement. You think he's serious about this?
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists, and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it.
We all know exactly what happened there. Now, as a civil rights movement, what do you need? You need the story. You need media coverage. Oh, as we already covered yesterday, not the mass media. No, not the mainstream media. They're actually mad you found out about this. They're livid about that because they had to cover it after that. No, this came from what the new media is. Us, you, me, your Twitter account, even your YouTube account, what you see on Facebook, because now people have hold of the information, and that's what matters. So you need that. You need a president that happens to be in office to support it. You've got that. And now you need symbolic representation on the streets. Let's go back to George Floyd for a quick second. Do you remember all the murals? They're still there. You go to cities throughout the country, even counties, rural areas too. Still see George Floyd murals, right? It was part of the summer of 2020 that kicked off the riots and BLM and all that good stuff. And then all the DEI advocates said, yeah, see, this is why we're in power now. Remember all that? Well, you may be seeing murals of Iryna Zarutska because now you've got many people, prominent people and rich people. I'll name one. His name is Elon Musk, who are willing to put $1 million for people to paint murals of Iryna Zarutska all through major U.S. cities. He just reposted that and said, I support this 100%. Maybe we do have a civil rights movement. But instead of a civil rights movement, which they tried to call the George Floyd riots, instead of violence, this is going to be a call for common sense. And I think it's time, and I actually think it's going to happen. Now, the George Floyd thing I just mentioned there is not really the best comparison of this. People always love comps. They love to compare a situation to something else that they can wrap their head around. The first thought was George Floyd. I don't think that's really it. This goes back to the bystanders on the train situation again. I think the closest comparison of what sparked outrage was Daniel Penny. You need a little reminder of Daniel Penny. He was the Marine on the New York City subway system who now I'm convinced saved many people on that train by choking out the deranged lunatic who was threatening lives, who had been violent before, and once again, guess what's coming? Released on the streets due to criminal justice reform and cashless bail and racial equity. Remember all that? Let me just give you a reminder about the Daniel Penny situation and the kind of outrage it sparked back then. Just in case you forgot.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny surrendered to authorities Friday morning to face a second-degree manslaughter charge.
5 to 15 years. Is that enough for someone who choked somebody out on the train and took their life?
The Neely supporters have been taking over streets and subway platforms, calling for an arrest.
Neely supporters say the acquittal is...
Took over the streets and took over subway platforms, calling for an arrest. Isn't that something? Isn't that amazing? And now we look back. Now look at the back that story with this new filter we have, with a new perspective. Do you think, even if you were unsure at the time, about the Daniel Penny thing. And even I had to look at it and go, I don't know, was that necessary? Was it not? Oh, it was necessary. After the Iryna Zarutska situation, I am completely 100% convinced he saved lives. And we need more people like him. Now, this goes without saying. If you're somebody that gets on any kind of a public platform like I'm doing right now, and you're calling for not being a bystander anymore, you have to put this disclaimer out there. Never start the trouble. Never look for violence. Never do that. But you have to, first of all, change your mindset and understand something. Violence is everywhere. Over the course of these many years, and I'll say it again, this is 50, 60 years in the making, regardless, decades, you've been told time and time and time and time again by those same corrupt news outlets run by those same corrupt NGOs and those corrupt people who want to disrupt society. This is what they told you. That's just you're just a paranoid person. The real problem and threat to society is white supremacy. That's what you got to watch. That's not. The cities are fine. That's what you were told. They're not fine. And the first thing we'll tell you in any self-defense class, and I can tell you personally from Krav Maga, the very first thing in any first class they will tell you is violence is everywhere. Anywhere, everywhere, it can happen at a moment's notice. Look how quickly it happened to Iryna. That's how quickly it can happen. That's how you change your mindset. With that said, you do not want to walk around completely paranoid every single day. This is the challenge. But you have to be prepared to do something. And if you see something that's happening on a train like that, you can't be those 5 people that did nothing. You got to be the guy that tried his absolute best to save her life. Failed because it was already too late at that point, but at least he tried. The people around her got up and left. As, by the way, the cretin, the subhuman creature that killed her, of course had a phone. Of course. This is 2025. Of course had a phone. Filmed it and said twice, we now know, it's recorded, I got that white girl. Yeah, that's what we are. That's why you got to be aware. You can't be a bystander to this stuff developing in your community. You can't be a bystander to this violence happening in front of you. And you can't be feeling any more guilt. This was the ultimate weapon, and I think it's gone now. I think it changed this week, of being afraid to be called a racist. Because people that were calling for common sense laws and crime and justice and law and order, you were called racist. That has zero weight anymore. Who the hell cares? Only an idiot would call you that as you're calling for common sense. That has no more power. No more. So, a lot changed, but a lot of good stuff is going to happen from this as well. Don't go looking for trouble. Never start violence. But keep your head on a swivel and be prepared. You can't be a bystander in the situation or in the courts or in your community anymore, because this is done. And I believe that. I truly believe it. People calling this a new civil rights movement, I think so. Let's call it a common sense movement. Let's do that, because there's never been more support for it. All right. There is some actual good news in the news, and this is common sense. And this is a girl who refused to be a bystander in her own classroom. Got to go to Texas A&M University. You probably already saw this story. So, under a directive, first of all, from the federal government, and then the Texas state government, and then with the university itself, who told their professors and their deans of the individual colleges in the university, stop pushing gender ideology. We don't do that anymore. Okay. Of course, professors being professors decided to ignore that. We know more than you. I've been in academia my whole life. Well, teacher got fired over it. This was the incident that kicked this one off. This is the student in the classroom who said, I think what you're teaching is illegal, so I have a question for that. Basically, she was told to leave the class, and she brought it up to the Texas A&M administrators. This is what kicked it off. It's a cell phone video from the student. You hear her clearly. A little tougher to hear the professor, but I think you get the gist of exactly what happened. And they'll give you the update of what really happened.
I just have a question, because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies' funding programs that promote gender ideology.
You are under misconception that what I'm saying is
Your gender is not illegal. According to President Trump's executive order, if you want me to read the paragraph in the order itself.
Not read that. If you are uncomfortable in this class, you do have the right to leave.
Yes.
What we are doing is not illegal. And if you would like to know that it is, you need to talk to the department.
It went on. It's kind of tough to hear there, but it went on. She basically said, "Get out of my classroom." And the kid said, "Oh, sure, no problem, but I'm going to a different room and I'm going to see what I can do about it." Which led to this, a statement from the Texas A&M University president, Mark A. Welsh III. I learned this afternoon that key leaders in the College of Arts and Sciences approved plans to continue teaching course content that was not consistent with the course's public description. As a result, I directed the provost to remove the dean and department head from their administrative positions. Nice. This led to this. Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying his response to that statement, "Good. Now fire the professor who acted contrary to Texas law." Update after that from Greg Abbott, Texas governor. The professor has now been fired. And that is good news. Never want to see anybody get fired, but can you agree with me that this was so deserved? Texas, and just, you can even hear it there in the classroom. "Oh, you're under a misconception. It's not illegal. It's not." The girl had her facts. She was ready to go. That's what I mean about not being a bystander. She wasn't a bystander to this nonsense. How many other college professors and deans and provosts throughout the university system are just ignoring law and still pushing this crap because they've had their way, again, I can't say this enough, for freaking decades. It's not the past couple of years. We all tend to think that, oh, this all went to hell under Obama. Oh, no. No, it's a lot deeper than that. Common sense is going to take a long time to fix, but it's coming. Oh, it's absolutely coming. Absolutely. But you can't be a bystander, and that's the takeaway. In a dangerous situation, prepare yourself, know how to deal with violence, help out your fellow neighbor, stand up to that, but don't get in trouble and don't start it yourself. And in your community or your classroom or your company, you can't be a bystander either. Those days are over. And remember this, you've never had so much support for common sense because it's happening. It's going to take a long time, but it's happening. Once again, isn't it always the way? Horrific news turns into something positive. But you got to change your mindset and take action. All right. Midweek already? Is that right? Wow. Rolling through. Who the heck knows what's going to be in the news? I would bet the Iryna story once again because it's that big. But there'll be other stuff we'll talk about as well. But you new viewers, new podcast listeners, new followers, thank you so much. I love you all. So make sure you press subscribe, follow, notifications on. We're live Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. every single day right here on X and YouTube and Facebook, but it lives on as a replay as well, which is where most people find you. So thanks for finding me. Remember, throughout all this madness, it is good news. I'll talk to you tomorrow.